The upcoming race for New York City mayor is becoming a little clearer. On Tuesday, Democrats chose their candidate, State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. The 33-year-old ran an energetic campaign focused on the cost of living in the city. He defeated former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo in the primary, and now he'll turn his sights on the rest of the field, including incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, who's running as an independent. Right now, we want to bring in Stephanie Taylor, the co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, and she joins us now to talk about this race and what it might mean for Democrats as they look to the next few elections and coming up in 2026. So, Stephanie, thanks for joining me this morning. Always nice to talk to a fellow Stephanie. What do you think about Mamdani's success? What's your biggest takeaway from Tuesday's results?
Well, this is a fantastic victory that shows a new direction is possible for the Democratic Party, that a future of dynamic candidates who can appeal to young voters, working class voters, with a platform that fights for people and not corporations. And the other lesson that we're taking away from this is that the old guard establishment of the Democratic Party did everything that it could to defeat Mamdani. They spent millions of dollars and they failed, and they continue being wrong about what the Democratic base wants. And so we're hoping that this is a real wake-up call to the Democratic Party establishment about how to win.
Well, how do you replicate Mamdani's success somewhere like Montana? Senator Steve Daines up for re-election in 2026. We know that's a state where the right Democrat can win, but Montana is a very different place than New York City.
Well, yes and no. Working people everywhere have the same concerns. The cost of living is out of control. Childcare is out of control. Medical bills are out of control. Credit card debt is out of control. We all have, and I count myself among them, I live in Pennsylvania, and we all have the same concerns that are very uniting. When you poll on these issues, poll after poll shows that economic populist issues have wide support among Democrats, independents, and Republicans.
Well, helping with some of those key issues, that was a lot of Mamdani's campaign promises, talking about like free child care starting at 6 weeks old all the way through 5 years. So how do you make something like that fiscally responsible? Because those programs can cost a lot of money.
Well, what Mamdani is saying is that we need to prioritize our investments in our people and in our communities by talking about taxing the wealthiest in order to invest in, like he talked about, rent freezes, free transit, as you said, in child care. This is investing in our people, and we just need to make a decision as a society, where are we going to invest? What are we going to prioritize in? And he campaigned on this wildly popular platform of let's invest in our people.
Are you worried about dividing Democratic voters? The progressive side, of course, the more liberal side of the Democratic base. Are you worried about dividing maybe the more moderate Democrats and potentially handing Republicans a win in upcoming elections?
Well, look, I think what we're seeing with Zohran Mamdani, if you want to use that as a model, he's running a campaign that's based on a safe, affordable, and welcoming future for all New Yorkers. He's running a unity campaign. He's running a campaign that's supported by Jewish voters, Muslim voters, young people, working class people. And it shows the promise of a different kind of politics. And this is something that Democrats should embrace and should build on. What we've seen for a long time is actually the opposite phenomenon from what you just described. We've seen the Democratic Party establishment actually tearing down some of our most brightest, young, charismatic candidates because they didn't agree with their progressive policies, because they didn't agree with these candidates' anti-corruption, anti-corporate, anti-war stances. And the fact is that this is what voters want, and this is the best way to win. We have, for too long, lived with a reality in which Republicans are building up their most charismatic stars, and the Democratic Party is tearing ours down.
Well, how do you take those charismatic stars in the progressive side of the Democratic Party? Is there a path towards working with the old guard to try to unite Democrats a little bit more instead of feeling more divided?
Well, I hope so. I hope that the Democratic Party establishment will see the promise here. We'll see what can be possible when you really embrace both young, charismatic candidates and also charismatic candidates that are running on substance that's incredibly popular. Again, these are incredibly popular issues. Polling shows that the rent freeze that Zoran Mamdani was running on was supported by 80% of New Yorkers. And so it's not just about style, it's also about substance. And the Democratic Party really needs to embrace both of those aspects in order to start winning again.
Now, I know compromise can sometimes feel like a dirty word in politics, but in order to pass lasting legislation, it's often compromise with Republicans that is needed. So how do you get, as the progressive, as someone who's a progressive leader, how do you get those Republicans to come to the table and try to find a compromise?
Well, again, I think you're looking at a situation in which these individual issues, these progressive issues, things like child care, things like investing in rent freezes, investing in our people and taxing billionaires to pay for it. These are issues that are supported by a huge majority of Americans, including Republicans, including independents. And so I think that it's about recognizing that the majority of the country is there. And it's also about, as Zoran Mamdani has done, building a grassroots movement. It's about building a movement of people saying, this is the agenda that we want, and we're going to get out there and fight for it.
Stephanie Taylor, the co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, thanks so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.